What's up, guys? Coach Gaglione here. This is another edition of our Climb for 185 series. I'm your host, Coach Gaglione, and I've been involved in powerlifting and strength coaching for over 18 years. So we're about 7 weeks out from my second official strict curl meet. I did do a tune-up meet at my gym at Gaglione Strength in Farmingdale, New York. I was able to successfully curl 170 pounds without a belt, which is a beltless PR. It's about 10 pounds off my all-time PR. My back's been kind of bugging me as of late, so I am going to elect to put the belt back on. There's pros and cons to using the belt for strict curl. It could potentially impede your bar path a little bit, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of getting older, grizzled, and beat up. Almost a master's lifter, but although joking aside, I'm not too old in biological years. I've been competing since 2006. And I've squatted 800 pounds in 6 different weight classes. I've squatted 1,000 pounds in training. So I just and I'm just a little bit heavier than I should right now. I'll be weighing in the 275 category for this particular contest. And then after this meet, I'm going to be continuing to work on trimming down. In some previous episodes, I kind of talked about I was kind of like on a meat-based, animal-based plan for a while. I've reintroduced starches. I've reintroduced things like rice and potatoes, sushi, things of that nature, some tortillas here and there. Still eating relatively clean, but just having a lot more starches and just really trying to eat for performance at this point. I'm still trying to eat kind of healthy, but not really restricting my calories as much. So I'm recovering better. I'm also going to be increasing the frequency of how often I curl in training. I'm going to be upping my frequency to 3 times a week. So I'll have like a max effort day, kind of a volume, kind of tertiary day, if you will, and then on my secondary day, which is going to be today, it's going to be more what I would consider a dynamic effort day, where I'm working on form and force production, and kind of like the way I'm kind of doing these 3-week waves. For the max effort day, I'm kind of doing triples, doubles, and singles, and kind of rotating through like that. On the volume day, I'm mostly going to be focusing on seated curls and preacher curls, so basically working both ends of the spectrum, kind of working more the lockout as well as kind of the start of the lift. So I'm kind of disadvantaging myself with the preacher curls. And then on the seated curls, I'm really trying to work on the transition to lockout. Depending on how beat up my hands are, I may use a different barbell. I may use like a non-competition bar for that, just to kind of save my hands a little bit. The gopher bar and the boss bar, which you'll see in the next video, tend to be pretty aggressive with the knurling. And my arm will be a little bit more exposed on those days. So that's just kind of help build my strength and kind of also work on certain positions. And then on this particular day, again, we're working on kind of accelerating through the lockout. I'm going to do some some halted curls, so some dead stop, and some where I'm kind of cycling through in a more dynamic way. And the way I'm kind of doing my pattern for this particular day is I'm kind of cycling through sets of 5, sets of 4, sets of 3, and getting progressively heavier in weight each kind of time I go through that 3-week wave. I've noticed that I'm not really good at repetitions. I've noticed that since I've kind of injured my forearm last year, knock on wood, it's been feeling a lot better. I just need to get better at repetitions and just kind of holding the weight. So one of my biggest issues is just the ability to grip the bar. I kind of joke that I have these stubby Italian fingers. It's certainly hindered me in my deadlift. I've deadlifted 700 pounds on a few occasions in training. I haven't deadlifted that in a meet. So part of that is my grip strength. Part of that is just a little bit more of a squattier build. I don't think that I'm really I have crazy proportions either way, but definitely as far as for my amount of muscle mass I have, my strength level, my kind of grip, and my kind of fingers have certainly been a factor over the years, especially as I've gotten bigger. Sometimes the bigger you are, the more bloated you are. And that can kind of cause some grip issues. So nonetheless, I've kind of committed to the 275 category for this particular meet. I would like to kind of go down in a few weight classes, compete in a few different weight classes. I don't know if I'll ever go back down to 198s again, but certainly would like to do a meet in the 242s, and certainly would like to do a meet in the 220s. So we'll kind of see what the future holds. This is also the first meet I'll be doing with my wife, so maybe I'll feature her at some point if she's not too shy to be on camera. She's one of the best strict curler athletes in the country. She was second at the 100% Raw World Championship this year, and she was first to Arnold last year. So she's really accomplished a lot in a short time, and so I'm really excited to see what she could do as well. And then hopefully we have some fun together. So anyways, I'm not going to talk too much during because I'm getting like kind of close to a peaking phase. So what I'm going to most likely be doing is I'll do like an intro, I'll do an outro, and I'm going to just focus mostly on just training. I just want to just focus on getting good workouts. So I'll try to get like some footage of kind of the working sets, and I'll kind of recap. So these might be a little bit shorter because again, I do want to prioritize actually being focused on my workouts. I'm going to try to put on some royalty-free metal as well, so that way it doesn't kind of mess up kind of the copyright and all that on YouTube. But again, if you guys enjoy these, I don't really comment too much and interact too much on YouTube. So also commenting as well and DMing me on Instagram is good. There's also a Strict Curl Superheroes Facebook group, so I invite you guys to check that out if you're interested. And even if you're not a Strict Curl enthusiast, there's going to be a lot of good information on the strength training in general, so stay tuned for more. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the workout. All right, we're going to do 2 warm-ups. We'll do one here, this is 80 pounds, do one at 100 pounds, and we'll do the first working set at 120 pounds. That's 4. Far so good. All right, so gonna be doing a little bit of more introduction here. So we're gonna do, I think I'm slated for 6 sets of 4. So on the dynamic day, if you look at curl pinch chart, things of that nature, on average we're looking for somewhere between 20 to 30 working reps, 20 to 30 working reps. So you'll see protocols like 8 sets of 3, 10 sets of 2, 12 sets of 2, 6 sets of 4, and 5 by 5. So again, in the case of the strict curl, I'm also trying to get a little bit better at repetitions in general, get a little bit more kind of volume, and just getting a little bit more capacity in my grip in my forearms, so using a slightly higher rep range. But generally, this is going to be somewhere between, on the low end 55, but somewhere between usually 60 to 70% bar weight on this particular day. So I'm going to do one more warm up at 100. I'm going to do my working sets at 120. I'm going to put the 45s on. I don't know how much of a difference it actually makes to put the big plates on, but again, I try to mimic contest conditions the best I can, getting close to a meet. I'm also not sure what the apparatus is going to be in terms of the rack. So that's why I'm also kind of practicing on multiple setups, so I can kind of practice multiple different types of picks from different setups, because I just want to be kind of ready for different scenarios. So so with that being said, I'm going to do one more warm up. Usually on a dynamic day, if I'm doing a high amount of sets, I don't do a ton of warm ups. But if you're a stronger athlete, if 60% is still a substantial amount of weight, you might need a little bit more. So I just took the empty bar. I usually go right to the quarters, and then I might need to take one more in between. If I'm not using accommodating resistance, I might go right to a 45 if I'm feeling good. And so far my forearms have been feeling better, knock on wood, even with the increased frequency of training. So I think part of it was also increasing the calories a little bit, trying to manage my stress and sleep a little bit better. So all those factors kind of make a difference. So I'm going to do one more warm-up set. I'm going to get in my working weights. I'm going to do some of the sets halted, some of the sets in a more kind of cycling through, a more dynamic, true dynamic style. But again, I want to kind of work both factors. I also want to be kind of ready for a long start command, because that was something I experienced my last during the tune-up meet. If you guys are familiar with Bench and Benny, he was our head judge, and he kind of held me there for a while. So want to make sure that that's kind of good. But anyways, going to do one more warm-up, and then we'll get into our working sets. And I kind of noticed just before as well, I'm wearing wrist wraps and a belt. Just feel better, just feel a little bit more support. I've been kind of experimenting with different styles of kind of wrist wraps. that are a little bit of a slightly, I'm not sure if I want to share that yet, but I'm just wrapping my wrist a little bit differently. And now I gotta choose, what am I gonna do? I ain't got a clue. Yeah, the media infectious, man, it's so tight, but I can't on the neck, it's senseless. I just wanna end this, just keep my person looking damn organic. And let the blood is like, you know, can't escape. Alright, so we're on to working weights now. This is 120 pounds. 20 pounds of chains, about 140 pounds at the top. So this is feeling pretty comfortable. Hands feel okay so far. Forearm feels okay so far. Belt doesn't seem like it's getting in the way, so I'm going to keep wearing that. If you notice, I'm kind of wearing the belt kind of low. Another thing that I've been kind of doing with my wrist wraps is just kind of getting a little bit more coverage on the forearm just to get a little bit of compression. That may or may not be beneficial, but I just want to make sure that I'm also feeling good. Part of long-term training is making sure that your body is kind of feeling good. So there might be some things in terms of your technique, in terms of the equipment you wear. It may not always be like necessarily the best for your performance, but in the long term, if your body's more comfortable, if your body's staying intact. So this is why sometimes people get really kind of bent out of shape. Is the belt cheating? Is knee sleeves cheating? Is knee wraps cheating? And even with powerlifting equipment, a lot of people don't know, like squat suits and stuff. Early squat suits were really just designed for injury prevention and a little bit more enhanced stability. And then, like many other things, people get greedy. They kind of found out. Look at knee sleeves. Look at the difference. Knee sleeves are a really good example of this. The only knee sleeves you were really able to get were the strongman kind of reband knee sleeves, the blue knee sleeves, and they were just to provide warmth. A lot of strongmen use them, and then eventually kind of SBD came out with their first iteration, and now if you look at it, I think Inzer was the first one. Those things are like as thick as garden hoses. They can support, I mean, you can't even like bend them. It might take several training partners to get them on and off. So like anything else, people always try to push the envelope with technology and equipment. But anyways, my point is all these things are tools. And even something like the belt is like, if you don't understand how to brace, you're not going to be able to use it effectively anyway. It's not just like you throw it on and you magically lift 100 pounds more. So if some gear, first of all, if the gear is legal, I'd say take advantage of it. So if like wrist wraps and a belt are, use as much as you can to your advantage. And then the other thing is if you need to kind of use some supportive gear just to kind of get you through some rough patches of training, I think that's fine. You just have to understand, so something like an elbow wrap for the bench press, and again, as much as I love Larry, I think that was kind of something he kind of popularized. I think it's not necessarily a good thing. But anyways, a lot of people are just kind of wrapping their elbows for performance enhancing reasons, just to say that they bench a certain amount. It's not there's no competition where those things are legal. And I think the same may go for figure eight straps in powerlifting. I don't think they really have a place for, if you're able to deadlift in excess of 100 pounds more than your max, I think that, I think straps should be used as a tool. They could be good to get more volume. They could be good to work around like a hand injury. or kind of a hand health issue with your callus rips, that sort of thing. But they shouldn't necessarily be used, in my opinion, to artificially kind of increase your max. I think they're, again, a good way to get more workload in. It's a good way to get more repetitions, but I don't think they should be, and same thing with kind of like the elbow wraps and things like that. I think you might be better off using something like a slingshot or a reverse band or something if you do want to overload. It won't change the mechanics of the lift as much. Anyways, this is a topic for another day, but I think that just understanding that there's definitely there's a good use case for a lot of kind of the supportive gear, but you also want to understand, what's legal and what's going to be at a detriment to like your long-term performance. And also there's definitely a point, like with equipped lifting as well, wearing like a light pair of squat briefs just to kind of protect your hips and that sort of thing, versus wearing like a full kit squat suit with knee wraps and all that stuff all the time. And then you're going to get the super maximal loading on your spine, and that could be problematic over time. So, you got to weigh the cost and the benefit to all these things. But I think that in general, if you haven't been wearing any supportive gear in your training, I think it's worth kind of looking into. And then also, if you kind of are somebody like myself who's been competing for nearly 2 decades, I don't discount, equipped lifting, single ply lifting, unlimited lifting. It could like kind of give you a new skill to work on and a new kind of avenue. So even though the strict curl is basically completely raw. Some people don't even wear wrist wraps or a belt. Like Knox is a big proponent of just having more flexibility of movement. So when you don't wear supportive gear, like kind of the biggest advantage of is that you have more mobility. And then again, in the case of the belt and the strict curl, it's going to decrease. It's going to allow for a straighter bar path. So there's pros and cons to everything, but I think it's good to explore all your options and just kind of understand whatever makes you kind of feel good, whatever is going to allow you to kind of be competitive with yourself and keep being excited to the gym. So I'm going to stop yapping. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all my sets, and then we'll do kind of like a recap at the end, and we'll kind of see how that format goes, because I want to kind of be more focused with my working sets going into the meet, because at the end of the day, I want to focus as myself as a coach first, athlete second, and the influencer is definitely lower on that list. But anyways, let's check out the working sets. All right, I'm not sure if my mic's dead or not. But again, coach first, athlete second, influencer last. I think that's going to be my tagline. Anyways, hold set slick felt good. For these, I'm going to cycle through my reps a little faster and work on my speed. And I think that's going to be kind of like my pattern on this day to kind of get the best of both worlds, if you will. I do think that's important to. I think there is some utility to essentially kind of doing some touch and go reps here and there. In certain movements, I'm a little bit more inclined to advocate for touch and go style reps for the strict curl as opposed to something like a deadlift, because in a deadlift, if you're kind of like bouncing, or like a box squat, deadlift, squats, you're having all that kind of load. And that force is kind of going into your spine. So a lot of times touch and go, same thing with benching, touch and go can turn into a bounce very quickly. And I suppose that bouncing in the bottom for a strict curl is not a good idea either, but in terms of I would say that, potential damage to your pec, in a bench press, potential damage to your lower back in like a box squat, or a deadlift, and then in a regular squat, sometimes you see like hip and knee issues where people have really dive bomb their squat. So generally, I like to see a controlled eccentric, pause in the bottom, explode through the top. That's going to be like kind of my most preferred way for training for both strength and hypertrophy, and also just kind of to help minimize the injury risk because you're minimizing the use of momentum. But that being said, in a competitive sense, if you do want to get more touches and more exposure to the lockout, if you do want to work on a bigger rate of force development, if you want to work more on explosive power, it is good to do some movements and also get your tendons ready to use that stretch reflex. So anyways, there's kind of like a fine line between where kind of a touch and go or like cycling through quickly can be problematic, but I do think that if you're an athlete like myself, I had a very poor vertical jump in high school. I just don't have a natural propensity for like being explosive in general. So doing some things that are more springy and bouncy in nature, try to like get a little bit, even if there's a lot of argument, can you even like increase power at a certain point? But I do think that you get better at what you practice. You get better at what you get better at what you kind of practice. That's the best way I can put it. So you need to, if you want to be explosive, you need to practice being explosive. If you want to be more powerful, you got to, kind of work in that range and kind of work those qualities. If you're always kind of grinding all the time, if you're always at RPE 10, and that's kind of where the submaximal training with maximal force, and that's kind of like the whole point of the dynamic effort method. So having that intent behind the bar is key, and I found that the strict curl in particular might even be have more similarities even to weightlifting, because in my opinion, at the highest level, it really is a pull and a catch, much like a hang clean, much like a snatch. So again, it's not that I don't want to discredit or the stuff that like Hampton Morris and Olivia Reeves are doing on the American side of weightlifting and stuff. This is that's at a completely different level, but I do think there is some similarities, and I think that we can kind of take some concepts from weightlifting as well and apply it to the strict curl, just like we can take concepts from powerlifting. And I do believe that this, when you get more technical with it, it becomes more like a weightlifting movement, and I do believe that you can kind of max out and go heavier more often. And if you look at weightlifters, you kind of see that as well. They're usually doing more singles, doubles, and triples more often. They're not doing like sets of 8 in like a hang clean, for most people. So anyways, there's something to kind of think about, and that's where I think also too, when the absolute poundage is lower, if you look at like a lot of high-level IPF, like female benchers, for example, and I don't agree with this, but I'm just saying what you do see is some of them might bench anywhere from 3 to 5 times a week. So something to consider when the range of motion is smaller, when the absolute load is lighter, and also when the movement is more technical. So, and I believe that this actually is a more technical lift than you might think, as opposed to like something something like a conventional deadlift, where the absolute load is a lot higher, the range of motion is greater. So you want to kind of take those into account when you're programming for yourself, and also when you're kind of adjusting your training loads and trying to manage your own fatigue. So even someone like myself, I am like not a big proponent of high frequency training, but I have found that my best results have come from curling 3 times a week. Now, can you curl 3 times a week if you're also a powerlifting athlete and you're also doing heavy squats, benches, and deadlifts? So at this point in my training, I'm not doing that. So anyways, I've been yapping too much. This is probably a little bit too long of a rest period for a dynamic day. So I'm going to start to do, we'll call these touch and go reps. But the way I like to think about it is just kind of cycling through. That's just kind of how I like to think about it in my head. So we're going to be more dynamic on these pulls. It's 130 pounds bar weight, 20 pounds of chains. All right, that's all she wrote. Started to get a little bit more challenging than I'd like at the end. That was 6 sets of 4, kind of waving between 60 to 70% bar weight of my all-time max, which generally I don't advise, but I am getting closer to a meet, kind of working more strength speed versus speed strength. So if I was kind of further out from a meet, I might say more in the 50-60% range on this particular day. And also, I mentioned before, not as good with reps. Ultimately, the speed was, but I also kept my rest periods fairly short after I was done yapping with the content pieces. So pretty happy with that. 120 I did for 3 sets, kind of halted, and then 130 did 3 sets more kind of touch and go. I'm going to do some accessory work now, and then we'll kind of see if I want to start to kind of film some of the supplemental exercise. I want to kind of keep more of the main movements the priority. And you guys will get your first look at the boss bar next time, which is going to be kind of more of the official bar of 100% raw, and something we're going to be adopting for our meets at Gaglione Strength, which will be mostly RPS sanctioned, but we may do some tested meets in the future as well, so kind of stay tuned for that. I've got a lot of cool announcements coming soon, but if you like the video, please share the video. Please drop a comment below. I'm bad at responding to YouTube comments, but if you want to drop me a line on Instagram, that's a good place to reach me, at Gaglione Strength. Check out the links in the description if you want to support our page. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.